Welcome back to our journey into the fascinating world of human behavior. Today, we're going to explore a topic that's often uncomfortable, yet incredibly vital to understanding why people act the way they do, particularly when it comes to criminal psychology. We're talking about the powerful, often hidden connection between shame, violence, and how these emotions shape behavior. It's easy to dismiss criminal behavior as simply bad choices or inherent malice, but true understanding requires us to dig deeper, to look at the complex psychological landscape beneath the surface. Today, we'll peel back the layers to see how profound feelings of shame can paradoxically fuel aggression and violence, rather than deter it. This isn't about excusing actions, but about understanding the root causes, so we can work towards more effective and more humane solutions. Before we dive into the deep end, let's clarify two very important, often confused emotions: shame and guilt. While they might sound similar, their impact on our minds and actions couldn't be more different. Imagine you accidentally spill a cup of coffee all over your friend's new white rug. If you feel guilt, your internal voice might say, "Oh no, I did a bad thing. I feel terrible about this action. I need to clean it up and apologize." Guilt focuses on the action you took. It often leads to remorse, a desire to make amends, and can actually inhibit you from doing similar antisocial things in the future. It's adaptive, meaning it helps us learn and grow. Now, if you feel shame in that same scenario, your internal voice might be far more harsh. "I am a bad, clumsy, careless person. I'm so inadequate. I want to disappear." Shame focuses on a perceived flaw in your core self. It's about who you are, not just what you did. It comes with feelings of inadequacy, a strong desire to hide, and is often linked to very unhelpful or maladaptive responses. Instead of fixing the problem, you might just want to flee, or even lash out to protect your fragile sense of self. Understanding this distinction is the cornerstone of our discussion today. Shame often drives people away from positive change, and can even push them towards violence. Now, let's talk about a powerful and dangerous concept in criminal psychology: the shame, anger, violence cycle. Think of it like a pressure cooker. Deep-seated, unacknowledged shame is the heat building up inside. It's a painful, agonizing emotion. When an individual doesn't have healthy ways to process this internal pain, that pressure has to go somewhere. Sociologist Thomas Sheff described how people, especially those prone to shame, might manage this unbearable feeling through anger, which then boils over into violence. It's a compensatory mechanism, a way to restore a sense of autonomy or protect a fragile sense of self. Essentially, if I feel small and worthless because of shame, I might attack someone else to make myself feel powerful again, or to deflect attention from my own perceived flaws. Donald Nathanson expanded on this with his compass of shame, identifying 4 main reactions: withdrawal, avoidance, attacking the self, or, crucially for our topic, attacking the other. Attacking others becomes more likely when a person feels deeply inadequate, blames someone else for their pain, and believes violence is the only way to regain power or respect. Where does this chronic shame come from? It's rarely just an isolated incident. More often than not, it's deeply rooted in painful life experiences. We're talking about experiences like trauma, persistent stigma, social harms, the grinding weight of poverty, systemic discrimination, or widespread social deprivation. These aren't just unfortunate circumstances. They can foster a persistent, gnawing feeling of shame anxiety. This anxiety becomes a constant companion, silently eroding a person's sense of self-worth.
To cope with this intolerable feeling, people develop various strategies to avoid confronting their shame. We see this in what we might call narcissistic macho facades, an outward display of toughness, bravado, or superiority to mask deep insecurity. Other shame avoidance strategies include defensiveness, addiction, an unhealthy pursuit of perfection, constantly blaming others, self-hatred, or, tragically, bullying. These behaviors aren't random. They are often desperate attempts to hide from the agonizing feeling of being fundamentally flawed. And unfortunately, these avoidance strategies can significantly increase the likelihood of reoffending. Now, society often tries to address crime with punishment, but what if our very attempts at justice inadvertently intensify shame in a way that's counterproductive? This brings us to John Braithwaite's groundbreaking reintegrative shaming theory. Braithwaite distinguishes between two very different kinds of shaming, and their outcomes are dramatically different. First, there's stigmatizing shaming. This is where we condemn not just the act, but the person. We treat wrongdoers as outcasts, irredeemable. We label them and cast them aside. This kind of shaming, unfortunately, often exacerbates crime. It pushes individuals further into isolation, deepening their shame and making it harder for them to reconnect with society in a healthy way. They become entrenched in their perceived identity as a bad person, with little incentive to change. But then there's reintegrative shaming. This approach is fundamentally different. It condemns the act. What you did was wrong, harmful, unacceptable. But it respects the person. You are still a human being, capable of change, and we want you back in our community. It expresses disapproval while simultaneously communicating forgiveness and offering pathways for reintegration. This form of shaming is designed to facilitate repair, remorse, and ultimately a return to constructive citizenship, potentially reducing future crime. It's a subtle but crucial difference, and one that holds immense promise. Of course, putting these theories into practice is rarely simple. The field of criminal psychology still grapples with significant challenges. For instance, there's a vigorous debate about the effectiveness and ethics of so-called shaming penalties in the justice system. While some might see them as cheap alternatives, research strongly suggests these public shaming sentences often backfire. They tend to exacerbate pre-existing shame, increase recidivism, lead to denial of responsibility, and even fuel substance abuse. As Martha Nussbaum eloquently put it, such penalties can be an unconscionable threat to our liberty and an assault on our humanity. It's also incredibly difficult for psychologists to accurately measure and distinguish between shame and guilt in individuals, especially when dealing with serious criminal offenses. How do you separate shame about the act from shame about oneself? These are complex internal landscapes to navigate. Furthermore, James Gilligan, a prominent psychiatrist, controversially but compellingly argues that punishment itself, particularly harsh prison conditions and punitive child-rearing practices, can actually increase feelings of shame and decrease guilt, thereby becoming a powerful stimulant for violence rather than a deterrent. This is a challenging idea, but one that demands our careful consideration. So, where do we go from here? The good news is that the field is moving towards a more nuanced and compassionate understanding of shame's role. There's a growing recognition that we need to develop shame-sensitive practice and foster what's called shame competence among all professionals within the criminal justice system, from police officers to judges to correctional staff. This means being able to recognize shame, understand its roots, and respond in ways that are constructive rather than destructive. Ongoing research will continue to refine our ability to measure and conceptualize shame and guilt, providing more robust evidence for intervention strategies. The ultimate goal is clear: to develop more effective, ethical, and humane approaches to crime prevention, intervention, and reintegration. Approaches that truly account for the profound influence of shame on human behavior, not by excusing actions, but by understanding their deeper origins. When we understand the profound, often hidden pain of shame, we begin to see that addressing criminal behavior isn't just about punishment, it's about healing. It's about providing pathways to confront shame in healthy ways, to develop empathy, and to foster genuine remorse, the kind of remorse that comes from guilt, not self-loathing. By cultivating shame competence and practicing reintegrative justice, we offer individuals a chance to rebuild their lives, and in doing so, we build safer, more compassionate communities for everyone. Thank you for joining me on this important exploration.